You wake up early. The alarm goes off, and before your eyes are even fully open, you're already thinking about work. You get up, get ready, maybe grab a quick coffee, and head out to start your day. You work hard, you show up, you do what you're supposed to do. At the end of the month, you get paid. And you try to be responsible. You don't spend recklessly. You save what you can. Maybe you even moved some money into an investment account because everyone says that's the smart thing to do. But somehow, nothing really changes. Your bank balance goes up a little, then drops again. An unexpected expense shows up. Prices keep rising, and it feels like you're running, but not actually moving forward. Look, this is more common than people admit. Now you might be thinking, am I just not making enough? Am I doing something wrong? Here's the thing. It's not just about how hard you work. Because if effort alone built wealth, you wouldn't feel stuck right now. My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I know how frustrating this feels. You're not sitting around doing nothing. You're trying. You're working, saving, maybe even cutting back on things you actually enjoy, and yet the progress feels painfully slow, almost invisible. And that's the part no one really talks about, because most financial advice sounds simple on the surface. Just save more. Just invest. Be patient. But when you're actually living it day to day, it doesn't feel simple at all. It feels confusing. It feels uncertain. And sometimes, it feels like you're missing something important, but you don't know what. Here's the thing. This video isn't going to give you generic advice you've already heard 100 times. This is about understanding why smart, hardworking people still feel stuck, and what actually separates them from the people who quietly build real wealth over time. Let's talk about the advice you've been hearing your entire life. Save more money. Avoid debt. Invest as early as possible. Live below your means. Look, none of that is wrong. In fact, it's technically correct. Now, you might be thinking, so what's the problem? Here's the thing. This advice sounds complete, but it's not. Because it gives you rules without giving you priorities. It tells you what to do, but not when, not why, and definitely not how to decide when things conflict. Let's say you have extra cash this month. Do you invest it, or do you use it to pay off debt? What if your debt interest is 15%, but the market returns 8%? What if you're afraid of losing money in the market? What if you want liquidity? This is where it gets really interesting. Most people aren't failing because they ignore advice. They're failing because they're trying to follow all of it at the same time without a clear framework. And when everything feels important, nothing becomes clear. So they hesitate, they delay, and slowly, they fall behind without even realizing it. So what's actually missing? It's not effort. It's not discipline. And it's not even knowledge. It's the way you process financial decisions. Here's the thing. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a decision framework problem. Look, when two financial choices compete, like investing versus paying off debt, most people rely on instinct. Or worse, they follow whatever advice they heard last. There's no structure, no hierarchy, no clear way to evaluate trade-offs. So every decision feels heavy. Now, you might be thinking, I just need more information. But more information without a framework doesn't help. It actually makes things worse. Because now you're overwhelmed. This is where it gets really interesting. People who build wealth don't necessarily know more. They just decide differently. They ask better questions. What gives me the highest return? What risk am I actually taking? What's guaranteed versus uncertain? And once you start thinking like that, decisions stop feeling emotional and start becoming logical. That's the shift. And that's what most people never develop. Let's strip the emotion out for a second and just look at the numbers. Imagine you have $10,000 sitting in your bank account. At the same time, you're carrying $10,000 in credit card debt at around 20% interest. Now, you might be thinking, I should invest this money. The market returns about 8% a year. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's what actually happens. If you invest that $10,000, you might earn about $800 in a year. But your debt, that grows by about $2,000. So even though you invested, you're actually losing $200. Look, that's not a strategy, that's a leak. Here's what most people don't realize. Paying off that 20% debt is the same as getting a guaranteed 20% return. No risk, no volatility, no waiting. This is where it gets really interesting. Small decisions like this don't feel dramatic in the moment. But over time, they compound, just like investments do. Now extend that thinking. Delay investing for 5 years, and you could lose over $100,000 in long-term gains. So the question isn't just, should I invest? It's, what decision gives me the best outcome mathematically over time? Because math doesn't care about feelings, but your results will. So if the math is this clear, why do people still get it wrong? Because money decisions aren't just about numbers. They're driven by psychology. Here's the thing. Your brain is not designed to build wealth. It's designed to keep you comfortable. Take loss aversion. Losing $1,000 feels more painful than gaining $1,000 feels good. So what do people do? They avoid investing altogether because they're afraid of seeing their money go down, even temporarily. Now, you might be thinking, that's just being careful. But here's what most people don't realize. By avoiding short-term losses, they lock themselves into long-term losses through inflation. It just doesn't feel like a loss. Then there's instant gratification. Spending money today gives you immediate reward. Investing delays that reward for years, so your brain keeps pulling you toward the present. This is where it gets really interesting. Even your perception of risk is flawed. People think investing is risky, but holding cash while inflation eats away at it, that's risk too. It's just invisible. And because it's invisible, most people never react to it. So what separates people who stay stuck from those who quietly build wealth? It's not access. It's not luck. It's how they think. Here's the thing. The 1% doesn't see money the way most people do. They don't treat money as something to hold on to. They treat it as a tool to deploy. Now, you might be thinking, so they just take more risks? Not exactly. Here's what most people don't realize. They focus on return on attention, not just return on investment. Look, you can spend hours trying to pick the perfect stock, or you can use that time to increase your income, build a skill, or create something that earns. One decision might give you an extra 1 to 2%. The other could double your income. This is where it gets really interesting. They also think in probabilities. They don't wait for certainty. They ask, what's likely to work over time? And then they act. Not perfectly, but consistently. And over time, that way of thinking compounds more than any investment ever could. So what do you actually do with all of this? Let's make it simple, but not easy. First, eliminate high-interest debt. Anything above 8–10%, that's your priority. Look, carrying 20% credit card debt while trying to invest is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. You're putting money in, but it's leaking out faster than it grows. Second, build a simple investment system. Now, you might be thinking, I need to learn more before I start. You don't. Here's what most people don't realize. Consistency beats complexity. A basic index fund invested every month over a long period of time is already enough for most people to build serious wealth. Third, automate everything. Because discipline is unreliable. Set up automatic transfers, automatic investments. Remove the need to decide every month. This is where it gets really interesting. Once your system is running, your focus shifts. Not to saving more, but to earning more. Because increasing your income by $500 a month and investing that consistently can completely change your financial trajectory over time. That's how you move forward. So let's bring this together. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're not stuck because you don't care. And you're definitely not stuck because you're incapable. Here's the thing. You've been operating with a set of financial beliefs that sound right, but don't fully work. And over time, those small misalignments turn into slow stagnation. Look, the difference between staying stuck and building wealth isn't one big decision. It's a series of small decisions made with a better framework. Now, you might be thinking, so where do I even start? Start by changing how you evaluate choices. Stop asking, what feels safe right now? Start asking, what actually makes sense over time? This is where it gets really interesting. Once your thinking changes, your behavior follows. You stop hesitating. You stop overcomplicating. You start acting with clarity, and slowly things begin to shift. Your money stops disappearing. Your progress becomes visible. And for the first time, it feels like you're actually moving forward. That's the moment everything changes. That's the moment you stop thinking poor and start building wealth.